and welcome to the Rugby Bits pod. We are coming to you a little bit later than usual this week, but the best part about that is the Springbok squad's been announced. So we've got plenty to talk about as we wrap up the weekend's action, specifically around Springboks and the Women's World Cup. And then we'll dive into the weekend's Springbok game and what we're looking forward to. But I'm joined by none other than Kooks. Mate, how are you? How was your weekend?
Hey, Sharky. Yeah, I've been doing very, very well, thanks. Weekend was good. Managed to sneak back to PE for a wedding. So, yeah, it was lekker. And, yeah, it was always lekker to spend some time at home watching rugby with my dad. Is always a interesting prospect, but it was lekker. But, yeah, it was some very, very good rugby on the weekend. And, yeah, had a good weekend. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Matt. Good, thanks. I had a busy one, mostly a bit of rugby. I got out for a hike and just managed to avoid a puff at us, so life is good. So you went home. So firstly, wedding. Did you manage to watch the Boks? Was the wedding picking up or dropping off by the time the Boks kicked off at 10 o'clock?
It was probably picking up. And so I said to myself that I wasn't going to watch until Sunday when I sort of obviously got home. And then I sort of saw someone's phones were out, so I had a glimpse. But then at that stage, I was 4, 5, 6 beers in. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit down and watch some rugby. I'll just sort of deal with this on Sunday. And then obviously, so I'd managed to not wake up on Sunday without knowing the score, which I just was, I avoided Twitter.
That's impressive.
Well, it helps too when you have a hangover. So, and then sort of just as I woke up on Sunday, I literally woke up and watched the Boks straight away. So I was like, I knew like things that happened, but then sort of like I could actually watch the game as I was trying to recover.
Oh, that's both a good and a bad thing. And I mean, and it's unfortunate we don't have Tyler here because he also spent some time at home this weekend. But I'm possibly going to intercept what we're going to talk about some other time. But some hot takes from your guys' dads. But what did your dad come up with an absolute beaut?
I'll tell you what, my dad is not a big hot take guy. He's very quiet when it comes to watching rugby. But what he does is he does stand for most of the game. So he sort of stands in front of the TV. And it's like, you got to almost sit on the edge of you've got a three-seater couch on the one side and the one seat on the other side. So you almost got to sit on the side of him and sort of watch the game from like at an angle because he tends to stand in front of the TV. But I'll tell you a story about my dad. You were watching a Bok game last year. Last year was a Lions tour, the first test I was at home. And then I can't remember what I said to him. I think it might have been like something like, oh, the Lions are the dominating us at set piece. What we need to do is maybe try more or less or something like that. So my mom was like, oh, what's the score? What's going on here? So my dad literally takes exactly what I said to him, tells my mom. My mom goes, yeah, I can see you get your love for rugby from your dad. He knows the game so well. I was like, bastard, dad. He just took my line and ran with it. My mom's like calling him this genius.
Beautiful.
I'm like, you're not flipping. I'm giving you all these little takes here, and you go around and you go send straight to my mom. So my dad so sometimes he'd message me when you're at home, like, oh, I from him, Joburg, like, how the Boks doing? I'm like, it's probably my uncles or my brothers-in-law are in town.
He needs some intel.
He needs some intel around the fire.
Oh, that's brilliant. So listen, if ever I get to watch rugby with you, old man, you're going to have to watch in another room. I often stand. I don't stand and watch the whole game, but I feel like I need to get closer to the TV often because I want to see everything in like super HD and almost as if I'm there. So I respect you, old man. It's the best way to watch a game sometimes.
I don't mind the standing. It's just that I know, for example, like I do get into it, and then it's just like, and the frustrating thing for me is like sort of like if I stand, then I'm gonna want to like throw something. So all of a sudden, when I'm watching rugby, even though I used to coach, I never used to coach with anything in my hands. Like if I had a water bottle and something happens, it tends to get thrown on the floor. So normally, if like I'm standing, I need to play something because to distract myself. So I'm sort of working my way back into actually sitting down. And every year when I used to coach, I used to say to myself, Cooks, this is the year that you must spend most of the half sitting down. And within 10 minutes in the game, I'm standing, and the next time I sit down is normally at halftime again.
Yeah. And when you finish coaching a game, you almost feel like you need a recovery session. because you
Oh yeah, 100%.
emotionally and physically drained.
100%. I normally like nap at like 4 o'clock when you get home, and like after a coaching game, like can you just like nap for a bit before sort of take on the evening?
Exactly, the adrenaline's wearing off. Now, I think it's only fitting that we get kicked off from a rugby point of view in New Zealand and the Women's World Cup final. And if you didn't watch that game, I'm sure you know the result. But if you get to watch that game, the full 80-minute game, you must watch it. From when they come out, sing the anthems, sold out Eden Park, and knowing that the England women were on a 30 game or 29 game winning streak. They really have not been tested properly in 2 years. And up against the hosts, the Black Ferns, who really, in all honesty, had a diabolical 2021 and managed to pull it together with Wayne Smith and a couple of other new coaches came through, and they couldn't stop talking enough about how much they changed their perception and what they were doing and what to look at. So congrats to the Black Ferns and everyone's new favorite and deservedly Ruby Tui, who's a legend. I have such a rugby crush on her. She's such a gem. But what an incredible, incredible final with highs and lows. Kooks, did you manage to get anything out of the game? Was it just like, was it a stand-up walk-around game for you, or we managed to sit down for that?
There was, I tweeted after the game on Saturday. I mean, I wasn't on last week to talk about the semi-finals, and I said the semi-final between France and New Zealand was, and obviously England and Canada was probably two of the best semi-finals you'll get in any sport, just in terms of the spectacle, in terms of, you know, the games and just the entertainment value. But that final was on another level. That was probably the best game of rugby I've watched this year, in terms of, it had everything. I mean, it had tries, it had drama, it had, and also like the contrast of it was like England's forward dominance. At a stage, the Black Ferns were quick tapping and running everything. It was like such a contrasting game, but it was entertaining. There was drama. I mean, the final, the crowd was incredible. You had the streak of England. You had, could the Black Ferns win at home? Wayne Smith, could he win it with the men's and win with the women's? Can Simon Middleton sort of end this amazing 4-year run with a World Cup? I mean, you had all of that, and then it delivered in like more ways than one. That was it was an incredible game where I honestly could not remember when last I'd been like so worked up in a game and sort of like got so invested in, you know, I remember watching the semi-final and I watched it in a way where it's just like, you know what, can you start lots of rugby ahead, start the semi-final, and then I just remember when in those two classes, I remember waking up on Saturday morning and honestly, the most first thing in my head was like, I can't wait for the women's World Cup final. I thought that was going to be probably the biggest game of rugby this year, and it delivered. I mean, it was an absolute cracker of a game. I mean, like, it went literally all the way down to the final play. And I think as an advert to not just women's rugby, but to rugby in general, it was incredible. I don't like, it's hard to describe. You know, you look at the men's game, right? I mean, every final is kind of a ball fest. Like, you know, like it's normally like either it's a 15-15 or us Boks, we pulverize England, or the All Blacks sort of score points against the Wallabies. But like that final, that it's going to be hard to top that as the game of the year in any men's, women's. It's going to hard to be top that as a better game this year.
Yeah. It was incredible. So just to give off the top of my head, I'm going to just quickly try and run through this. So the Red Roses are a power forwards dominated side. They ironically, their line out and drive is amazing and everyone loves it. As I was a little dig at it, and everyone was moaning about the Springbok ones. My bad. So they're really forward dominated, but they've got some incredible backs. You know, they've got Abby Dow on the wing, they've got Emily Scarrett, they've got Ellie Kildan. Like, they've got quality all round, and they dovetail well. They really know where their strengths are, and up against the Black Ferns, who I must be honest, I really thought that they would have done a little bit better combating them all. I thought that their pack was a little bit stronger than what it showed on Saturday in the final. But it was amazing, and they were just getting beaten by them all. Amy Cocaine scored a hat trick in the final, which is I think only been done 3 times before. And just an incredible thing. And it looked like the Red Rose were going to run away with it. But the Black Ferns settled. They got in. So Lydia Thompson was sent off in the first quarter, I think 17, 18 minutes for a tackle on Portia Woodman. It was no doubt it was a red. But the Black Ferns lost Portia Woodman, which was big for them. But I tell you that the Black Ferns came back. They were tapping, they were running, they were running everything from all over. And sometimes I was just like, Kooks, we were chatting on the group, and you were like, and we all agreed like they've got to slow it down somewhere along the line. I thought they could try different things to try and combat the maul there. It was ridiculous, and it all turned around in the second half when the Black Ferns snapped a couple of tries. And I tell you, Stacey Fleuler is yes, she's incredible. She doesn't ever stop smiling, but she is deadly. She's got pace to burn. She's got hands. She offloads. She's got everything. It's ridiculous. And she built up was at the heart of 2 tries. And it was going down to the wire. Well. Yes, absolutely. In a final.
I still tweeted when she scored that try. I was like, I think I'm in love with Stacey Fleuler. Then she created one of the when she offloaded off the ground. I was like, I'm definitely in love with Stacey Fleuler. Like, she is what's an offload?
And an offload. I saw when she fell, with the way she was tackled, I was like, that looks like a knee's gone or something. Like it's one of those tackles, when you drag from behind and then you think, okay, there's something gone here. It's an ankle, a knee, or a hip or something. And then she manages to offload and then limps off again later. But it was flipping incredible. I mean, she offloaded to Aisha, who scored. And she scored.
Even Aisha of the bench was an absolute powerhouse of the bench. I mean, she's been like, oh man, Aisha, she's been amazing with the bench. But what I love the most about Stacey Fleuler is for that first try when she did that little dummy switch. I mean, and Emily Scarrett is an incredible defender. And she sort of left her like for dead, like in a little. It was like on the try line, on the touchline, a little dummy switch, and sort of created and obviously broke through and created an incredible try. But I mean, but also in that game though, Sarah Harini was absolutely everywhere. Like you just saw her everywhere carrying. I was like, this is incredible. I mean,
she's wide and tight. It's. How I'd love to know what her numbers are, because she must get through about as much running as the scrum half and fly half. She's in doing tackles, making sorting out rucks. Then she's wide and she's got the hands and she's bursting down the line. And then all of a sudden she's cleaning rucks again. And you're like, whoa, what's going on here?
100%. You're like, she pops up everywhere. But I must say, watching her and Molly Packer go head on head was, because I mean, Molly Packer's always. Molly Packer just reminds you of such an old school number 7. You just every time she wins a steal, she comes back, her pants on half off, and her hair's a mess. It's just like she's scruffy. She just gets up and she's like limping half the time, but she was everywhere as well. You're watching her, you're like, she's
I'm here to do a job.
Yeah, I was watching the game. She's limping still. Is she limping from running and tackling this person, or is she limping from the previous injury? And then Sarah Harini is absolutely everywhere. But it's you know what? I was saying to someone, in the women's game, it's so tough, because people do that thing where the notion is but it's boring and it's not. I'm like, guys, if you watch those 2 weeks of rugby the women put through. That's some of the best rugby. If you enjoy the game of rugby, just the way it should be played. I mean, to have over 50 points in a final, there was drama. The only thing about the final was the kicking was absolutely horrendous for goal. But poor Renee Holmes. But I mean, other than that, it was just it was such an absolute spectacle. And I think, I commend both sides. I love what, Sarah Hunter and Simon Milton said it, and it's so hard for England. I mean, 30 games and to lose the last one and to sort of go, and the thing is, like, their legacy is something that I love what he said. He said the one game does not define them. And you look at what they've done, with making the game a professional, the Premier League, the Premier 15s League they have now. They've done so much for women's rugby, and obviously it's like, obviously not to have won it is tough. That's what people tend to remember. But you look at their run there of absolute dominance, and it just shows in rugby. Like, surely during that game, it literally felt like whenever this. I remember when they had that maul at the end, I was like, oh man, like New Zealand's going to lose this, but yeah, England are the better side, and the clutchness to get a steal out of nowhere. Because I mean, New Zealand at the stage, they tried everything. They tried sacking, they tried not jumping. They literally, I was like, and I sat there and I was like, I think my dad was like one of the ones like, what did you do here? Would you jump? Would you attack at source, or would you? I'm like, you know what? I've always believed in attacking at source. I'm not saying but even there, I was like, oh, I don't know if you do attack at source. Like, do you just bring it down and hope for the best? But I was also like, I don't know what I've done. I'd probably would have gone to the coach, captain, like, that's sorry, that's on you.
Cool.
Your coach has stepped out.
So just to fill everyone in, the final score was 34-31. England got a penalty, basically 79 minutes, 30-something seconds or whatever. Kick to the corner, 5 meter out, attacking lineouts. I think they might have had 2. But, basically the way it's been going is they've basically been doing 20, 30 meter mauls at will during the entire game. And I mean, I even popped on the group and I was like, they're absolutely getting murdered at maul time. They're contesting and then they're trying to set up a defensive maul, but they're getting obliterated. And because England was setting up so fast, I was like, they really need to step back and hope that England set up and transfer the ball before there's contact and try and earn a penalty out of it. And like, they were getting murdered that much. Like, they weren't even getting involved. And the thing is like, what they did was they challenged the liner, which they did a lot during the game. But they've obviously been working on it, and that was their plan, because they were never going to combat the maul. So they needed to sort it out before it got down into a maul. And that steal, 5 meters from the line. And as I saw the ball going to the Black Ferns side, I was like, oh, I hope someone gets hold of this and clears it. Like, you don't want to tap back and then England run through and score, like that would have been like that. That's probably fitting of how the game would have ended. But you kind of just knew that the Red Roses were going to win it. Like, after everything the Black Ferns had done, all their fight backs, how they combated England with different tactics, their ability to run from anywhere and how incredibly skillful they were. Everything about them, and it all just pointed to the Red Roses scoring a driving maul at the end. And that would have been the final chapter in an incredible story on its own. But not to be, man.
Not to be, no, man. Geez, it was incredible. Even the celebrations afterwards. I mean, Ruby Tui's interview is incredible, and
singing with the crowd. She starts singing with the crowd. Like, what a legend!
Like, oh, it was absolutely wild. And I just thought, it was a fitting way to end an incredible World Cup. Where I want to say, for a World Cup like that, when you sort of like, there was so many great narratives, right? I mean, that made that game so special. Like, and it's hard to think of of a game having so much. It's going to be hard to think of a game this year of rugby that has as much storylines coming out of one game and being a final. Because not many finals deliver in terms of high end quality, and it's always gritty, and it's anonymous, make a mistake. I mean, like, the Black Ferns were just running it from everywhere. I remember we were saying for a stage, like can they exit? Then after a while, I was like, okay, cool. Second half, all of a sudden the Black Ferns are kicking everything. You're like, oh my, what can you go back to the rugby that you sold us on? Like, in the first half, like, what is going on here? Oh man, it was incredible. But listen, I just think it was a great way to start the rugby weekend, and I just think going forward, I mean, it's going to be. I would love to sort of see the women's game growing. I think, Rugby Tui mentioned, like, women's rugby is not going anywhere, and I think they needed the sort of World Cup. I think the next one's in England, which is the next 4 years. Sure. It's going to be so interesting to see where the game.
There's another story in a story there. Like, the next one's 100%. In England.
Oof. And it's like, oh man, like. But I must say, I mean, just shout out to that English team. I mean, I think it's hard to sort of lose a World Cup final, but a World Cup final when you've been beaten for 30 games and you sort of put together this incredible side. Oh, it's a tough place to be. It is a tough place to be.
Yeah. Well, just quickly in closing on the Women's World Cup, just a few stats from the final, which were incredible. So the man of the match. My apologies. The player of the match was the Black Ferns fly half, Demont. She made 8 carries across the gain line in that game. She made 6 offloads. And when they gave her man of the match, I was like, oh, I tell you, Flula deserves it, or Irini, definitely, because they were both very, very prominent throughout the entire game. But having a look at some of those numbers.
But Demont loves a good show and go. I kept watching the game, like, Demont loves a good show and go. I was like, every time, like, it's like, I'm the past once, but it's like, but the thing is, she's incredible at getting the ball with the advantage line. I mean, it happened often. I mean, like, which is, but I was sitting there, like, she absolutely loves a show and go. You know, it's also very good, Fitzpatrick at 12. Just, always to that first receiver when Demont was there, just quietly goes about her business. I thought she's an exceptional tournament as well.
Yeah, and they had they used a couple of 12s during the tournament, and both of them were very handy. Just a couple more things. Both sides, 100% success rate on scrums. The Black Ferns, 9 out of 9 lineouts. The Red Roses, 16 out of 18. So they lost 2, which I couldn't remember. But those 2 were both lineout steals. So clearly there was a plan there, which is incredible. Red Roses, 11 mauls won. That's ridiculous. Like, that's crazy.
That is wild. And you get 4 tries from there as well. Yes, that's wild.
It's amazing. I tell you what's very interesting from a defensive point of view, the Red Roses only made 65% of their tackles. They missed 36 of the 121. So that's quite something. 81% tackle completion for the Black Ferns. Kicks from hand, almost the same, but England definitely getting more. I tell you, I was super impressed with the length of the kicks from England, and it obviously shows in those numbers. 17 kicks, 485 meters. Black Ferns were 15 for 350. So it was...
Especially Scarlett Harrison. Harrison's got a great boot for England at 10. She always gets them out of change. I thought she's also like, she's not as flashy. I mean, Demont gets all the crazes, and like, was it Boulier from France in terms of the offload, but Harrison also just keeps everything ticking. And I thought she also had another very good tournament. Just, it's so weird. I think Jared put in our group that everyone on Twitter was loving the mauls, but come 10 o'clock on Saturday evening, also going to be like getting pissed off because the Springboks are mauling again. But now when the English are doing it, we were like, oh, it's weird. The context is a funny thing in rugby.
Yeah. I tell you what's impressed me as well with Harrison, but particularly both England and New Zealand, was the accuracy and the distance on their passes. Their 9, 10, 12 passing was great. Like what we found with South Africa, and I'm comparing it to the women books, was and a lot of the sides that didn't advance through, is that their kick distance was nowhere near the distance of the other side, so you were never able to clear. And the other thing was the width that they were able to get on 2 to 3 passes. So it's definitely a work in progress for a number of sides. But I was super impressed with that, like some of the accuracy and everything. But incredible final scenes afterwards were amazing. And in 3 years' time, in 2024, is it 2021, 2025? We will be having the Women's World Cup in England. So looking forward to that. I'm hoping the next 3 years will be great for the women's game and for rugby in general, because there are a lot more fans have come into the game, and I hope they stay. So yeah. From that, Kooks, we're going to head over to Marseille and talk about...
I was happy to say the longer and longer. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Well, yeah. So listen, congrats to the women, all the teams and all the women that got involved, and everything was amazing. Like, it was a great tournament. But we have to get stuck into the French win against the Springboks this weekend. And I tell you, that game was hectic, man. Like, at the end of that first half, Jared and I spoke, and I was like, I actually kind of don't really know what's going on here. There was so much happening. Like, firstly, what I will say, with a little bit of a side note, is that red card to Pieter-Steph Totoy was probably one of the best things that could happen to the Springbok side in terms of the Springbok fan base. And I'm not talking from a negative point of view, I'm talking from a positive point of view, in that the focus, normally when the Springboks play, they're like, oh, this guy shouldn't be playing here, and this is what this happened, and look at the tactics and all that sort of shit. Now the guy, like everyone was just filling in. Like there were guys playing. I didn't know what position Damien Willemse was playing half the time. Like he was all over the show. We had forwards everywhere. Everyone was picking up the load, and the game plan obviously changed, and the way we approached the game changed. And that's what I mean by it was a blessing in disguise, is that we actually got to watch a game of rugby and no one was looking for a reason to blame someone in the South African setup. So yeah, your thoughts on that first half? Like if you can if you can bring it in together somehow?
It's like organized helter skelter. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's how like it felt like. It was like this is like helter skelter, but very organized as well. But also like, I think that test was like when you said like, oh man, is a perfect way to describe, because it kind of felt like I mean obviously I thought we played well enough to win it, especially with 14 men. And then obviously like there was a stage because like it was a game that ebbed and flowed, right? I mean France took control of it when they went up 13-0, and then you're sort of thinking like, oh man, these guys they're about to take full advantage over this this advantage, and then sort of the Springboks sort of came back and fought back, and then for a good period of time we dominated that game and then the red card happened for France. But like there's stages there we felt like we were dominating them, and even with 14 men we had most of the possession. Of France just edged us out on territory, but I mean we had 53% possession. But what I loved the most, what the Springboks did, was, I mean, there's a stat that Rian Lowe on Twitter put out, the fact that France could only get 50% of rugby under 3 seconds, between 0 and 3 seconds. And we did manage to disrupt all their flow. And I thought, jeepers, there's a stage, even before the yellow card, as I was like, man, we could win this game. But I thought it was a very good test. I think it was, it ebbed and flowed. I thought France, you know what, to talk on the French side, I think Fabien Galtier is probably the happiest man in world rugby at the moment, just because, I said in Feb, March, when the Six Nations ended, that France peaked too soon. And I actually look back now, and I think they still haven't, because France will look at this game against the Wallabies, and game against the Springboks, and say they probably weren't at their best. And there are plenty of injuries against the Springboks, and they still managed to come out 2 out of 2. For me, that says a lot more about France now. It makes them even more dangerous than they were in March when they just won the Six Nations, this Grand Slam. And I think for them, they tour, I mean, they obviously played Japan this weekend, but they'll feel like this year has probably been a success. And leaving that with the Springboks. And I think there's enough in there that will give them confidence come next year if they meet the quarterfinal, in terms of, I thought Amol did dominate, but I also thought they did very well to compete against a line-out as well. They did a few steals as well. So, but also the vice versa with the Springboks, they will feel as well they can take this French side. So it's going to be very interesting if we do end up meeting them again. But I thought it was a really good test. I think there were a few calls. I thought Wayne Barnes, the last 10 minutes was not at his best. I mean, I'm not surprised that you lost communication with the TMO. I mean, I mean, you're playing in France, so I'm not too surprised. But John, did you think, like when you looked at that game, do you sort of, which camp? Obviously, I mean, I know France won, but do you think even the Boks from a losing side probably walk away? They're also probably just as happy as France.
Yeah, I was gonna actually mention that. I think the Springboks probably the happier of the two, despite the loss. The fans, I don't think the players need it, because I think the players know it. But the fans needed to see the Springboks fight and play differently. And that was like, as you said, it was like unorganized chaos, or it was just chaos. I'm not sure. But it was a time where you couldn't, it's unusual. You can think about playing with 14 men and you can practice it, but you don't ever think you're going to be doing it for 70 minutes. And especially for someone like Pieter-Steph du Toit, who gets through a mountain of work, whether you feel he's in form or not. Pieter-Steph du Toit is still a world-class blindside flanker. He might not be world-class in Pieter-Steph du Toit's eyes or Springbok fans' eyes because we know what he's capable of, but he's not a liability. So that was massive. Just a massive shout out to Pieter-Steph du Toit. The man was gutted, and that is a red card. It wasn't malicious or anything like that. Social media is not a great place to be sometimes, but it was a red card and is what it is. Another quick shout out to Seku Makalau, who flanker on the wing, who actually did outstandingly well, despite playing hugely out of position. But yeah, I think the Springboks will come away from it probably a little happier. I think they played well. They stuck together. We've really advanced in our ability to change our way of playing and our focus on the game. And it was always coming. Like, everyone wanted a different style of play. I hate to disappoint the fans, but the Springboks will go back to that kick and chase game again. They will. There's no doubt about it. It's one of the sort of arrows we have in the quiver, and we've got a few other options. We're now starting to advance our playing ability with different players in different positions. So I think it's great. I am super impressed with the massive middle finger raise by the Springboks as all three of our kickers kicked 100%, Ches and Colby, Faf de Klerk, and it was Damien.
Yeah, and Damien as well.
Yeah, that was great. And they were striking the ball cleanly. It was going straight through the middle. There was no doubt about it. There was no wobbly kicks or anything like that. So the plan on that side has worked. So I thought it was super impressive.
Do you made me laugh about about the kicking thing? I was sitting there because, so obviously, like, we're kicking. I was sitting there like, this is so high school a little bit. Like, it's just like, okay, you kick from this,
yes.
You kick from this corner, it's left hand side. I was sitting there like, maybe like rugby might be moving on to that thing. Maybe that's the next sort of version of it. It's like, instead of having one kicker, okay, cool. If you score try on the right hand side with the angle, if someone left footed, they kick from there. If in the middle, this person kicks from here. I was like, maybe that's a variation, but it was so funny. I was like, when last have you seen a game when there's three different kickers and they're all kicking 100%? So that cool. Well, first of all, if you're kicking purist, I mean, off the tee, the kicking on the weekend was exceptional. I mean, Thomas Ramos was also flipping like rock solid. I don't think there was a kick missed on the weekend of the tee, and I think that was so great to watch. It was funny. Like, Thomas Ramos basically is like, he's probably going to the front management like, why must I shoulder all the kicking load while these also giving us, they're resting kickers, like,
yes.
They're like resting kickers. Like, he's kicking 3 times, he's kicking like twice. I'm like, yeah, 8 for 8 just to win the game against flipping 3 different kickers.
But there's a reality that next year in June, in one of our warm-up games, we'll have 4 kickers on the field. Faf starts, Pollard at 10, Willemse at 15 or 12, and Colby on the right or 15. And then we've got 4 kickers to pick from. It's insane, but I loved it. I loved it. I just hope it doesn't cause other problems. But yeah, I mean, how have we changed kickers when they're still at 100%? I think that was such a flex. That was such a don't worry, I'll show you. You say we can't kick? I'll show you. Here you go. Have some of this.
Yeah, it's like, we got 4 of them. And like, it wouldn't be surprising someone like, Jacques, I mean, even the way Jacques and Rassie break down the game, where you get to a point in the game where rugby is like, okay, cool, I got 4 kickers in the field, and say, well, from between the 15 and the right hand pole, Ches and Colby's 100% from there. That's his favorite spot to kick from, so he'll kick from here. And then Andre Pollard is amazing from 35 meters out on the right. That's his spot, so you'll kick over here. Like, almost have guys kicking in zones. Like, this is your zone over here. This is your zone over here. And then it's like, that could be an option that teams explore. Like, no longer just your long range kicker and then your obviously your shorter distances. But it was a proper flex, and it was nice that it did work out, because if it didn't work out, it's going to be like tough to front up. And Rassie was right, and Rassie and Jacques were like, in the ask who's the Pokes first choice kicker. I don't even think they know at the moment. It's just like the guys got the hot hand at the moment.
Crazy. So yeah, incredible game, like a massive game at something that was expected. Both sides played well. Both sides received a red card. Dupont, happy birthday, Antoine Dupont. It's his birthday today, but his red card was. I actually, when I watched the game and I saw it go down, I was like, "Damn it!" That's. I thought it was one of the props that took Colby out, and I was like, "Whoa, guys, this is an absolute game changer," because they had lost a prop to injury. Now, in my mind, the prop was getting sent off. So they were going to go to uncontested scrums, which meant they'd had to lose another player that had been playing with 13. I was like, game on, let's go win this, you know? And then, much to my disappointment, it was Antoine Dupont. Also, pretty clear-cut red card. No one really can complain about it. It is what it is. And that's what the laws say, and you really, if anyone wants to argue any of the red cards, the door's that way, like it's pretty clear. But I think, it would be wrong of us not to discuss that final try. There's a hell of a lot we could talk about, but I think the final try, Kooks, your thoughts on it and the fallout from it, but your opinion on what happened in the final minutes, and that try specifically.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely a double movement. I think it's one of those things, the more you see it, the more clear-cut it becomes. And obviously it's frustrating that the communication just vanished with the TMO at a time we needed it most. Yeah, it's weird, though, like with the fallout that's come from it, I mean, I definitely don't think that Wayne Barnes is a bad referee. I just think, it's just weird that he's got it wrong in the last couple of minutes. And I mean, obviously now with the videos and everything that's come out, there's a big outcry on it. And I think it's a hard place to be because, I mean, like, you look at that trial, I think obviously Springboks do feel like very hard done by because you win the game, and then obviously with everything that happened from there. But I mean, for me, like, it definitely was a double movement, and it's frustrating when those things when does that happen where you lose communication with the TMO? Like when like the 50-50 calls, I'll say the box sort of did go against us this weekend, and I don't know if you saw the video where Rassi posted and the ref was asking for the kick in French, and then Rassi responded like, we don't understand French, but he said it didn't go so. It's like, it's like things like that, I think it's things like that, but I just think it's one of those. But when it comes down to it, I think Wayne Barnes did get it wrong, and unfortunately, rugby, refs are human. I mean, those things are going to happen. Paul Williams did mention on Twitter things like, refs are going to get 100% things right. And it's frustrating when those calls do affect a game like that. It is the last minute of the game. I mean, last couple of minutes of the game. But yeah, that's how I saw it. It was more frustrating that it was missed. Like how can the communication sort of die down now at a time like this? So what if happens in the World Cup semi-final? What happens then? You know what I mean? Like, I'll rather wait 10 minutes for them to fix the issue to make the right call than the ref going, well, I see it as a try. Like, I don't blame Wayne Barnes for the reasoning for going, well, there's no communication. I can't say that. I'm going to call the on-field's going to stay, which is fair, but that can't happen. That can't happen in a final. I mean, what do you think about it, Shaun?
So, like, ref and TMOs have lost comms many times before, but it's really hard to look past it at that particular time. I believe the host, I believe a lot of the communication that wasn't being heard in South Africa on SuperSport was being heard on other channels. So Prime, I believe, had it. But there was a call by the TMO that it was a try, even though they'd broken down their comms. So that I obviously wasn't watching on Prime, but the general feel like they'd broken down their comms, but the TMO was still communicating, which everyone else could hear. With regards to that try, so in order for it to be a double movement, it must be a tackle. And in order for it to be a tackle, a player must be either have his knee touch the ground or on the ground. He must be on his back or he must be seated. That's according to the law. So the thing is firstly, the ref's got to call tackle, and then he's got to then place it. So when you slow-mo it down, his knee touches a blade of grass. So technically, it's a tackle. However, when it happens in real time and you watch it, you can see his knee goes down and straightens up, and like I can see how that is not seen as a tackle, and therefore he is allowed to drive forward, so it's not a double movement. So those are the things that people need to kind of take into account, like, and whether you feel it touched the ground. Because I had a look at it, like when you have super close, like super zoomed in and slow mo, you can see his knee graze a blade of grass. It doesn't sit there, and he doesn't propel off his knees. Like his knee goes down and comes up again, and then he propels off his feet. So seeing Wayne Barnes miss that, like I can understand how he missed it. And then when the TMO had a look at it, we obviously didn't hear what TMO was talking about and whatever. So I think that's really, really a tight call. And, you know, tight calls are really tough, and it's going to go the way of the home side, unfortunately. We kind of know that. We've been on the right and the wrong side of that. So yeah, I do believe that his knee touched a blade of grass, and technically that makes it a tackle, which then technically makes it a double movement. However, I feel a lot of fans are blowing it way out of proportion and not really knowing the law so well. So yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I really don't feel it's the end of the road for anyone. I think Wayne Barnes is an incredible referee. Like everyone was so happy, and everyone was saying, why didn't he have the South Africa Ireland game? Because he's so good. And then he comes on, and now he's the worst ref in the world. So it is what it is.
But it's like, but Joe, it was one of those things. I think obviously rugby is such a game where there's so much interpretation within the laws, right? I mean, that's unfortunately that is the game where it's like, you know, even coaches, the top coaches especially, coach their players to find ways to manipulate the rules based on how this referee sees certain aspects of the game. That's a big part of the game, and unfortunately, is if you the opposition. You know, sometimes I like to gauge sometimes. Like you sit in the bar and you watch the Boks playing, and you know you see some from the Boks come from the side, but you get away from it. No one says anything, right? No one goes like, "Oh, PSF came from the side there," but we like it. No one says that. You know, it's like, but then obviously the opposite happens with the Springboks, and it's like, "Oh, they can't see anything." You're like, guys, come on. Like, unfortunately, like with Twitter, there's a lot of that. I mean, obviously, we sort of always speak from a fan's perspective, and that's a big thing where, you know, like it doesn't change the way I feel about Wayne Barnes. I still think he's a fantastic referee. I understand the frustration. You know, I mean, obviously, yeah, like you said, like you understand where you could have gone it wrong. I think there was other calls where you've gone wrong. Where it is frustrating. You know, I think the thing about rugby I've realized is there's going to be missed stuff happening every game. You know, for example, the French player that forearm that Jason Colby ate a week ago, the referees missed an entire Sia trying almost decapitating one of the Ireland players, and
Yeah.
those things happen. Those things are missed all the time, and I mean, those things it happens. That's the game of rugby. Like if you could pin down and blow everything, there would be no game. Every second breakdown, there's people falling over and things like it. Unfortunately that's the game that we love, and unfortunately I loved a tweet that I saw last week of the Irish game where the Bok games tend to be close. So those sort of calls, the 50-50s that don't go away, they sort of mean a lot more. They greater exaggerated because our games are so tight.
Yeah.
So
I saw that too. It's a very valid point.
Yeah, so if the game does get close and the right call isn't made, it's going to affect us a lot more than, because most of the time our games will start then, let's say if the game was a lot more open, a lot more freer, maybe a missed call here and there may not have this direct effect, might be because we couldn't finish because of that. But a game of that nature on the weekend, that call and other calls sort of come back. And that's the hard part. Also, the hard part about officiating a Springbok game, I think the Boks are a very hard team to ref.
Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you something very interesting about that game, and we really don't see it often. But in terms of both sides and tackles attempted, France had to make 108. We had to make 104, which is basically even. Not never, but so seldom. Like it's normally like 120 versus 90 or something, you know? So having just shows how tight that game was, that both sides were basically just having a go at each other nonstop. So yeah, you know, it was a tough one. It's a tough one to lose. I do think we will probably take more out of it. I think we will be the happier of the two if you take the loss away from it. And I think France aren't going to feel completely satisfied about beating us in terms of they wanted to beat us at home. They wanted to get their monkey off their back and all that sort of stuff. But I think deep down, they will be very, very wary of us in France in the World Cup if we meet. I think that they mentally could probably get one over anyone else and approach the game in the French way that they're going to win. I really, really feel that they still think about us as a proper threat on home soil.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think what the Boks do very well. I think they're very good at disrupting our ball in your position ball. I think that's what scares France the most. Like these Oaks can just stop. I mean, France on our side. I mean, so 30% of their ruck ball was over 6 seconds. So that
Yes.
we like neutralize almost everything. I mean, to have 30% of your ball over 6 seconds, that is tough. But I definitely think the Boks will take a lot from that. And like I said, the Boks at drug time are such a hard side to beat. And it's weird. I think France I also think France in that camp of, yeah, when you're fully strength, I feel like we can take these Oaks. But same with the Boks go like, yeah, but we can take these Oaks as well. So I think the France and I always think the France and the Boks are very evenly matched. I think France is the only side that can match the Boks in terms of forward depth, starting and on the bench, especially in the front. I think, and obviously the way they kick and the way we play, I think it's, if you look at evenly matched, where it's like, you can't say almost similar styles. I think they are an evenly matched where it's sort of, if they play 10 times, I think the winning team will win in like six games to 4, or they might just win 5-5. That wouldn't surprise you. I think that's how even they are.
Yeah. Another thing which is quite ironic because everyone is jumping up and down about Springboks doing a 6-2 split, but ironically on Saturday, France really could have done with a 5-3 and the Springboks really could have done with a 6-2. so
yeah,
that's just the way the cookie crumbles. I really think it's a coin flip, and it's really got to do with your approach. But the best part about the 5-3 split is we all get to do a little something and call Manie Libbok a Springbok. And I don't think there's anyone in the country that is not doing that without a smile on their face, because that man has walked the walk for 2 and a bit years. He has gone out into the wilderness. He has been told he is not even worthy of being a professional rugby player, let alone a URC winner, and then literally forced his way into the Springbok setup. And he's now a Springbok. How awesome is that?
Yeah, man, it's incredible. I mean, his journey is, it's wild, from the Bulls to the Sharks to Province. Even at Province, I don't think anyone probably thought he would be the first choice fluff. I mean, with Cade Volator there and Willems was going to play 10. And for him to step up and arguably be the best players. And what I loved the most was when this season started, after obviously missing out on the Rugby Championship, he sort of stepped up the performances. Remember there was a game when they won, I think, in Wales in the flipping pouring rain, and just kind of showed all the skills that he had with his boot. And you could do it in a wet day. You can be an absolute baller. And to see him come on and become a Springbok, I think that was an incredible moment. It just shows that what being backed does to a player. I think that's when John Dobson backed him, and now he reaps the rewards. And excited to see how he goes against Italy. And I'm sure a certain other name that rugby Twitter, Springbok Twitter is really happy to see Evan Roos back in the Bok mix. So I think Bok Twitter is going to be a good place this week.
Yeah, I'll tell you just a quick little story from another podcast. But I was listening to a podcast that Carl from Bet.co.za was having, and he was chatting to Rito, the forwards coach of the Stormers, and he was chatting to him after the Stormers had won the URC. And he was just talking about Marvin Orie and a few other things. But there was something that Rito said about Manie Libbok, that Rito went in to the High Performance Center in Belleville after the URC win, I think a couple of weeks after, and he needed to go and collect something because he was going overseas, or he needed to get something for work. And he saw Manie Libbok in the gym. And he said to him, dude, what the hell are you doing here? Like, everyone's off. It's off time. We've won the competition. It's done. You need to have a break. And Manie Libbok turned around and said, I'm training because we need to win it again next year. And that to me showed the mindset he has, how focused he is, and his hunger for more, and his hunger to be better. And I think that all culminated on Saturday when he ran out for the Springboks. So I love that story. And I'm so happy for him, because I most certainly didn't think he had the goods, and I most certainly was out and about saying that I didn't think that he deserved the call up, deserved a call up back in the days when the guys were first talking about it. I thought we had too many. I didn't think it was the right fit, and he's proved me wrong, and I couldn't be happier. Like I'm so happy for him. I really, really am, and I cannot wait for him to play this weekend against Italy. He is on the bench. On that, let's shoot on to the Springbok squad that's been announced for Italy. So we've made, 4 changes? But yeah, Jasper's back. Jasper's back at 8. We've made quite a few interesting changes. We've got a new midfield. Andre Esthuizen's back at 12. And we've moved Damien Delendi to 13, which is something that has been done before. He has started there, but he's also moved there during games. So I'm okay with him going there. Other than that, pretty much the same back line. Arends is on left, Ches and Colby's on right, Villiers at fullback, Buff and Damien. We've got Ox, Bongi, France. And then in the lock pairing, we've got Murat and Ori, which is great. And then we've got Kolisi, Mostert and Visser. Just backtrack. Siya Kolisi had a flippin' amazing game against France.
Yeah, sorry, he was incredible. He was incredible.
we didn't chat to him. But on the bench, we have Malcolm Mark, Steven Kitshoff, and Vincent Koch. Eben Etzebeth, that man deserves that bench spot. He needs a break. Kwagga Smith, and then number 21, Evan Roos. So South Africa have reverted back to 6-2. Evan Roos is back. Everyone's been calling for him to play and get involved. I think I'm super excited. I know that I've said things about him and his game that I think needs to be worked on, and it's got to be the right fit and everything. I think the way that they've set this up now is perfect. I think it's great. I also wouldn't be surprised if he got on a little earlier with Visser, who's come back from a head injury. And then we've got Kobus Reinach and Manie Libbok, and I'm super happy that they've named Libbok as player 23 in a 6-2. That is another moment for me where the Springbok coaches are saying it's that belief, and you spoke about it early on about just trusting him and giving him that role. So now he's going to be covering 15 and 10, but obviously if anything happens, I'll probably first move Willemse to 15 and then move Libbok to 10. But we have options all over. The only place I'm a little scared of is we really don't have a cover for 13 in that match day 23.
Yeah, it's a very balanced 23. I think gone are the days where sort of size, or you can try and rotate all of the size, you end up like the Wallabies and Italy can scare you. So, I think after that game, I think it's going to be hard to sort of box name a flipping 15 changes and things like that. But you know what? It's a very good side. It's a very interesting side. But in there, there's certain things, like there are questions that the Boks would need to, will feel like they need to ask, and I think they can. Obviously the essays and how does it go? Can Delendi cover 13? And obviously seeing Murat and Ori together, I think definitely someone like Murat and Ori, they do deserve a start, and to see how they go. Let me tell you who's not happy about the Springbok side are the Italians, because they were, if you remember in the World Cup, the bomb squad idea, the 60 split started against Italy. They were the first victims of it. They were the first victims of the 60 split. And then I'm now looking back and they're like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, we're doing this again. Now with even Italy on the bench. Like, what the hell?
I know. How's that 6-2? Like the bomb squad, Malcolm Mark, Steven Kitshoff, Vincent Koch, Evan Etzebeth, Quagga Smith, and then some new youngster, Evan Roos, has been basically smashing down trees.
Yeah, it's like what the hell? Like it is like thinking like what the hell have we done with the Springboks? Like we're sorry for beating you one time in 2016. Like we apologize. Like can we? Why are we? The test time is again for the 6-2 thing. I mean, like because remember like in the World Cup game we like broke they had like props rolling off the field and like it's like it's like poor Italians are like probably like they're probably mid celebration after being in Australia, and then like today they're still like living off the hype. Now it's like, oh, by the way, it's 6-2 split again against the Ezoks this weekend. I'm like, the Italians probably thinking like, oh, like we beat the Wallabies, but at what cost, Sean? At what cost?
At what cost? Yeah. Now I tell you, I love, and I'm almost certain the Springbok coaches listen to this podcast. There's no doubt in my mind because I was talking a while back about how Willemse, Delendi, and Creel are by far the hardest hitting 10, 12, 13 in the world that anyone will ever come up against. And basically, Jacques Nienaber said, "Hold my beer, mate." And he's put Willemse at 10, Andre Esterhuizen at 12, and Damien Delendi at 13. Now, I don't want to say I'm wrong, but that could be the hardest hitting 10, 12, 13 ever.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, tough place to be 12 to run a short line. I mean, yeah, I think like it's just and Italy's like, wow, like why is this happening to us? Like, why are we the test dummies for like why must we sort of pave the way for Oxus getting hurt? But I must say, I'm very excited to see Andre Esterhuizen. I think he's got probably the toughest place in that box squad because like, you know, he's a 12. I'm sure he can probably play with a 30, but I mean, like, you look at him, like, he's an out and out 12. You know, I mean, in the box office, they love the guys who can cover multiple positions. For someone like Esterhuizen, he just feels like a player that he's either starting at 12 or he is sitting, he's wearing a suit. So it's like, I think for him, this game is massive because, you know, like, you want to sort of play well enough for the coach to think, like, this guy should go to the World Cup. We actually do need an out and out 12 if Damien Delaney is not available or winning the same power. Because now it's like, obviously, Williams is playing well at 12. Franz 10 comes back from injury. So it's like, do you know what I mean? There's all those questions. You like, so I really hope Andre Esterhuizen goes well. I mean, his improvement to his game has been incredible. I think his journey at Harlequin, I mean, the last couple of the Sharks and obviously going to the Harlequins and seeing how well he's played there. So I really hope that he does have a good test. And obviously, I mean, Evan Roos is, it's a tough place to be if you're going to tackle Jasper Wiese for about 60 minutes and then Evan Roos for another 20. It's
and Quagga Smith's coming on there, and he's hard as, eh?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like it's not it's not a good place to be if you Italian shoulders. It's not the kind of week you need after playing the Wallabies. Which is like you can't go from the Wallabies into. I just think it's unfair to have Ebenezer coming off the bench with like jogging on with like Steven Kitsoff and Malcolm Marx. It's like you don't need that in your life. Like I don't feel like no rugby player needs that in there. Like no matter how well they paid.
Yeah, and I tell you, you know what's interesting? You talk about Esterhuizen being an out and out 12. He's actually more a 12 to 10 shift than a 12 to 13 shift, where Damien's a 12 to 13 shift, if that makes sense. I know that they have flirted with the idea at Harlequins about making him more of a distributor. I also just try to Google it now, but I think he's left-footed. And either way, he has...
Yeah, he is an absolute cannon over left foot.
He's got a cannon. Now, Scott Berger mentioned after the French cam that we struggled with our exits, that we didn't use Villiers' left foot when we could have pass kicked, and we struggled a bit with our exits. So I think Andre is going to alleviate a lot of pressure. We're going to have Willemse with the right, Esterhuizen with a left boot to be able to clear. So we've got some great things. If we pin the Italians back with two massive clearing boots, they're going to cuck off even more. So yeah, we're in for a great one. I'm also looking forward to Marvin Ori. I'm playing. I quite like him. He gets through a mountain of work. Like he tackles as much as most of the other, whether it's Peter Stifted Toy or Franco Mostert. You know, he gets through a shitload of work. So line out time it'll help, and tackle wise it'll help. I think that's great, and yeah, I'm looking forward to
also
seeing.
Someone, sorry, Sean. Also, someone with an incredible story. Remember, the Lions sort of gave him away. I think the Lions sort of came away, and the Stormers picked him up. He sort of had this, and the Stormers also saved his career, and now he's back in the Bok mix, and which is incredible.
And what an awesome photo when he and Evan Etzebeth started the test match together. You know, they played together in school, and I don't think they played together since. Might have been at an age group set up in Western Province, but they didn't play together after that. And I think that was their first game back together, playing in many, many years. So yeah, awesome stuff. And I love that we have guys like we have two inexperienced guys on the bench in Evan Roos and Manie Libbok, but we've balanced it really well in that we've got guys like Murat and Ori that are starting that they're on the fringes, and but they can start. They've got stability in the front row and in the loose trio to help them out. So I think that they're going to be perfectly fine. And we've got guys that worked around a little bit in the back line. They're sorting themselves out. And then we've got we've got a bench replacements of note that could probably start, and there's guys there that'll start for the Springboks any day of the week. And Kwaggaroos. Jesus, imagine how hard that guy would hit and harder he'd run at you. So Kwaggaroos. So Evan Roos is coming off the bench. So we've got so many options. Like I said, the only space I'm a bit wary of is 13. But other than that, we're pretty well covered. And I think, as you mentioned, we are super well balanced. I've got to figure out how to spin this Kwaggaroos thing. What would a Kwaggaroos hybrid be?
Someone that covers 2 to 15. Pretty much like the world's greatest rugby player, like pace, power, kick. I mean, I've seen Kwagga do a few chip and chases, so that'll be the scariest rugby player probably of all time.
Yes, Kwaggaroos, Evan Smith. Danger. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here, mate. What's happening on Saturday against the Italians? Are we going to crush them?
I think. Listen, I must say to people that the Italians have gotten so much better. You know, I think that the story they've had of their rugby the last couple of years has been incredible. You look at the growth of Benetton and Zebra and how well they've done in the URC, and obviously getting that win against Wales and now against Australia. I think the rugby's come a long way, but I just think the biggest battle for them and how we will tend to do well is physicality. I think we'll just be a little bit too physical for them. But I think with the Springboks, what's key for this weekend is we've got to put them away early. Let's not give them any bit of hope. They just, because once you give the Italians hope, they just grow and grow in belief, and then it's like a side like that. That's the last thing you want to happen. So I think the Boks will sort of put them away early. I think it won't be like a 50-pointer that it was the last time we played them like in the World Cup. I think it'll be a 35-10, 36-11, 36-12 sort of game. I think we will play well. I think Italy will put up a fight, but I just think we'll be slightly too strong for them. What do you think?
I think we are going to hit our 50 mark, and I think we're going to crush them. I really do. I really think South Africa are going to hit their stride, and we're going to see it. So there is trouble coming, and it's going to fall on the Italians. Yeah.
Poor Italians, the wrong place, wrong time, wrong place. Like
exactly.
They probably said, like, why couldn't France or Ireland do them a favor? Like now the Boks are like, now we definitely need to win. Because the Boks, the end of the day, the Boks do need to win to obviously, we don't want the Boks to go through this tour without winning a game, but we leave with a great story. I mean, we leave the narrative stuff for the Wallabies, who absolutely must give Dave Rennie sleepless nights. And but I mean, I think the Boks do. I mean, obviously, they definitely do need a game. I mean, to win this game. So if the poor Italians could be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
I agree. I think they're going to hurt. Okay, quick little. What do we call them? Tap and goes. What did we call them last week? It is, quick tap. There we go. Sorry, Tyler. Yeah. Okay, quick tap. Right, Scotland, Argentina. Who's taking that?
Oh, geez, too young. So very quick this tap. Scotland,
Okay, I'm going Argentina. England, New Zealand.
New Zealand,
England. Ireland, Australia.
if Sexton's Australia, I'm spelling it upset. Australia. I mean, upset.
What?
Australia's
I'm going
winning.
Ireland.
I think Australia's going to win. Thing is, sorry, before it was a quick tap. Australia is a type of side to lose to Italy and then go beat Ireland on the weekend. No one knows
40.
what's going on in that camp. Like no one, like Dave really must be sitting there. Like what? Like the Wallaby situation is it's the most intriguing. Like I find the most intriguing team in rugby. They're so interesting. Watch the youngsters. They're not as shit as you think they are, but they're not as good as they are as well. If that makes sense.
They're not as shit as you think you are. They're not as shit as you think they are. And then when you think they're not shit, then they are.
They'll let you down. Yeah, but anyway, yeah.
If I get the words right. And that is a wrap of the Rugby Bits pod. Kooks, my man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was an absolutely great chat yet again. And hopefully we get to chat again later in this week to preview a couple more test matches. But Kooks, from the Rugby Bits side, Shaun and Kooks, we want to say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you and goodbye, guys.